9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
What is up, guys? Euclid back here with you again, and welcome to the Your podcast. And we're going to be talking about something not only different, but incredibly relevant with the Halo community and Halo content as of late. And that's not new games, that's not Halo Infinite, and that's not the decrepit, sadly, Halo Wars 2. That is actually going to be in the realm of Halo mods. Now, we've got a few things to talk about today. We're going to do our very best to keep things kind of in their own lane and not dedicate too much time to one subject nor the other. But we got a lot of things that are exciting to talk about, and I'm joined today with my two good friends who are almost always with me on these, and that is Mr. Vin and a Mr. Josh. How are you guys doing today?
Great.
Doing very good.
Oh man, you're getting like, I was like, I had to say something to kind of that realm. But yeah, they actually turned me on to these mods because upon most of completing Infinite, more so completing, dude, really? My family is disgusting. Like in the background, in the realm of like just belching this, and no, I'm not cutting this out. But no, there's a lot of really cool stuff, and we were taking some time to read through it. And the first thing we kind of wanted to bring up, and I think it's unanimous on that, is Digsite. And I hate to put you on the spot, but Mr. Vincent Gattuso, you have experience in this. So I'm going to start it off and let you take the reins after me. What we have on screen here is the actual article written by Mr. Haruspis himself or Alex Wakeford. I don't know what he goes by anymore because I haven't followed it as religiously as other people. Front and center, it has something very, very old that a lot of people probably don't even know exists. They brought it back in the novels, and it just kind of shows that they are digging into cut content, lost files, and they're kind of bringing it to the community. They are going back in time. Think 1999 Macworld trailer and what that entails. So we're going to be seeing not just artwork, not just skyboxes, but weapons, vehicles, kind of you name it, stuff that was cut and didn't make it into the final product. Some of which I would argue would have fit in really well, but it's hard to tell how the development was back in the early 2000s, let alone late 90s. So Vin, what are your initial thoughts on Digsite? And what I mean by that, so that I'm not just throwing you to the wolves, is thoughts on this, like Halo modding in general. It seems to be what the majority, right, of the community seems to be talking about. It seems to be the most relevant thing. People aren't really looking for new campaign content, but there's even that in this, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, I am done.
Yes. I'm very, very pleased with the fact that they're putting all this like rejuvenated effort into the modding scene and pulling up all these old pre-Halo, pre-Xbox stuff. I'm obsessed with the Macworld era of Halo. I love, like, the Orion armor has always been probably my second favorite set next to Mark IV. So the fact that all this 1999 stuff has come back, and you, Euclid, are familiar that they brought back the 1999 Elite as a harness for that one Elite from Broken Circle, which is just so cool.
Yeah.
Like, we didn't need to do that at all, but like, what an awesome thing to canonize. I love this era of Halo, so getting to jump into that 1999 landscape again, just phenomenal.
It is.
It's really cool. It's been interesting reading their articles too and seeing how they like come to these discoveries and stuff. And I hope that my commitment to my hope is that they commit to building on this in MCC and continuing to do Digsite stuff, because as we'll talk about in a bit, there's not just stuff for like pre-CE 1999. They have content that they're trying to pull from even like Halo Wars. Like, they're doing their best to get this stuff that's kind of been left on the cutting room floor into the games and into MCC as tags so that modders can create brand new content. I think that's awesome. I think it's going to be really cool for projects like Reborn, like bigger Halo overhauls that are going to be able to take advantage of all these new assets coming back into the fold and stuff that are very distinctly Halo in their style, but people might not be as familiar with.
Right.
I know Josh is a huge 1999 fan as well, because he's a big CE fan.
Yeah,
so it's kind of hard not to do.
He's kind of our local CE king. So.
Yep.
It's hard on to long for an era of Halo that we didn't actually get when you're a CE fan. So.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I know that when I was playing through it earlier, because I had intended to last night, like I told you guys, but as I was going through the Blam set on Digsite, I mean, first of all, I knew that there were going to be a couple mentions, and it was kind of a small introduction to this slew of modding content that's been released to the public. But the first thing I noticed was obviously all the set of weapons that I saw, because like many things we're going to talk about today, I didn't know even the naming convention of a lot of these weapons until I was curious enough to look into it after watching the behind-the-scenes documentary that came with the Halo 2 Limited Edition in the steel case. So all those weapons were there. All of them were present. Different variations of sniper rifles, SMGs, old cut content, Covenant weapons. I mean, pre-Scorpion tanks, which look really cool. There's...
Oh yeah,
I could go on for hours, and I think the game might be called Earth 2145, but it's like it sounds kind of cliche, but it's almost like what you would think of with like a more conventional tank from a sci-fi series. And there were two equivalents of that, and I was having a ball with it. And I told Josh earlier, because it was just me and him earlier, and I told him, I was like, this is giving me the same feeling I had when I played Combat Evolved for the first time. I'm like, I've never been on this world before. I've never been on this level on the ring before. It's clearly a sandbox for testing things, but that didn't matter. It was new. So there's the first thing. People are going to get to experience not only these sandbox levels and assets and skyboxes for the first time, but they're going to get to feel weapons that they've never felt before, because they all have unique animations, they all have unique sounds, and it gave me the same feeling that I felt when we first landed on Halo after escaping the Pillar Bottom years ago.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I don't know about you guys, but I think I have a lot of favorite things that they're doing, but my favorite for me is a niche. I love that they're restoring cut wildlife, like the Thorn Beast, the Blind Wolf, stuff like that. For me, the biggest thing about CE that I'm like, I wish somebody would expand on this, is that the ring should have wildlife. You know, there should be creatures that you can interact with. Some can be hostile, some can be friendly, some can be hostile and provoked. I love the idea of the ring being a living, breathing world, and the designs that they had come up with for all these different creatures. Like the Blind Wolves are so interesting. They're like dinosaurs, but not. It's a very, very cool like set of creatures, and I'm glad that they're restoring those and bringing them back in higher fidelity.
Absolutely.
I really hope somebody does a huge expansion for Halo Combat Evolved that puts those assets to use. We had a little bit of that. What mod was it that we played, Josh? Was it Rubies that had the
Rubies? Yeah, Rubies Rebalance mod adds in
Rubies Rebalance.
It's a good mod. So I know people have their reservations about rebalance mods, but I actually think that it's pretty cool because Ruby kind of goes above and beyond with adding some new areas and adding environmental storytelling, which is fun. Some of it's even funny. Like, I believe there's one section on Halo where if you are looking in the right spot, you can see where some jackals have tortured some grunts, if I'm not mistaken.
That's funny to you?
Yeah, it is kind of funny.
You find that funny?
So that like harkens on the Kig-Yar and the Ungoy. Yes, I'm going to say it. That harkens on their bad history. That harkens on really the mistreatment that the jackals or the Kig-Yar had given to the grunts or the Ungoy. And like, I like that. That's a mention for those of us that probably had way too much time on our hands at one point, and now we just appreciate that we had that time then, and we're looking into these creatures. But I completely agree with what Vin's saying, because one of the biggest things about Halo that I think everybody was always curious about, but we never got a lot of, was the bestiary of the creatures and the wildlife, the Thorn Beasts, the Blind Wolves. I wanted to play that fucking trailer. Like, I really wanted to jump in to that world, even if it was a short mission, even if the assets weren't active, if the AI wouldn't interact. I wanted to go into that tunnel. I wanted to see what was down there. Combat Evolved, to this day, just in my opinion, I think it captured the wonder of Halo and the mystery and the unknown better than any game. And not just because it was the first one. It didn't spoon feed you answers or lore. You were left, maybe because of a simplistic design, arguably not though, you were left to wonder. The game did not give you droves of information. You got a lot of that with Halo 2, and it was like, by the way, and you were given like an entire like, you know, Bible of knowledge when it comes to comes to Halo, but Combat Evolved captured that wonder, and I think that's the biggest reason why it stuck with me this long. And I got, like I said, I got that feeling. That's that feeling, or as it's put in the article here, ancient, epic, and mysterious. That was well put. That's really what was and especially when you're younger, your imagination consumes you more than it does now that we're the ages that we are. So sorry for that spat, but I was blown away by it, and I haven't even dug into the further realms of it, but it's really impressive so far.
Yeah, absolutely. So you really touch on it well with that language there, and I think, like, in terms of the environmental storytelling, Josh, am I wrong as well that there's a section on Halo 2 where you, not on Halo 2, but on Halo as well, where you see the corpse of a blind wolf and a grunt, Nungoy, that, like, provoked it. I think stuff like that is so cool, and it's such a missed opportunity that, like, we don't get to see that really in the games. I'm the kind of person that I would pay good money for a Halo Mythos style, like, Traveler's Handbook to ring wildlife.
Yes.
I feel like that would be so cool. I feel like people would go nuts for that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm really, like, kudos to the Digsite team. I'm so excited to see what they do in terms of wildlife and stuff. You were gushing about the tank as well, and I have to say I love the stealth tank.
I do too. It's so fucking cool. Like I said, back to the trailer from the limited edition of Halo 2 and the Steelbook. I mean, not only was it nostalgic and everything, and it kind of carried on the OG Bungie days, okay, because we can gush about them and 343, whichever. But the biggest thing that kind of overwhelmed me from this is that I never thought I'd be able to drive them, interact with them. I always thought it would be kind of a bit of content, but every year that goes by, we are allowed more and more access to stuff that we never thought would be touched. I mean, we never thought Halo would come to PC. That was like the first step, so it's inevitable. We're going to get access to files, and some things just need a few pieces to be complete. So it's not that I'm surprised, but even while being cautiously optimistic as I've been, thus far, even with its simplicity, I've been blown away. The stealth tank is great. I like the early design of the rocket hog. I like that it is definitely the physical, like the Gauss hog is its spiritual predecessor. It has the same design. Some of the weapons are more fun from the cut content versions, like like the old rocket hog. Its rockets didn't just fly straight; they had an actual arc and a drop to them after so long. And I'm like, that's kind of cool. That can be manipulated in multiplayer with modded Halo, and I could gush about that forever. But instead of doing that, I'll put it back to you guys. Like, we can also talk about the maps. So there were 3 maps that were released, if I'm not mistaken. And I've got them on screen now, kind of going through them. And their names, what is it here? The first one here, it's very small, close quarters, indoor underground style. Oh, he's very poetic, but I can't find the actual name of the map. So there's one that uses a lot of assets from the Pillar of Autumn. Those kind of assets, the more the UNSC, the industrialized UEG technology, metallic walls, everything is like metal and titanium. The assets were familiar, but it was just an entirely new level that someone created called Underground. I found the name. And I ran around it for a second. Certainly a smaller, close quarters, probably friendly for free-for-all. It was interesting, and I was kind of running through that not even an hour ago. There's another one called Dusk or Abyss. It has random names because it went through different variations. One which was more so a grassland, and the other one was more rocky, like the grass had been scorched. So I see that there's 2 different variations of that. I have them on screen now. I'm seeing, of course, they mentioned like the old E3 2000 skybox. I'm a big fan of those old school skyboxes. These painted tapestries, these beautiful. I mean, certainly they're dated, but the fact that that's been reimagined for us to enjoy at a whim, I don't know. It kind of feels like in one way we're being spoiled. It's something to be positive of, and without even being forced. You don't have to force yourself to like this. That's what I like about it the most. I'll cut myself on that. So, it's nice to know.
I really like the 3 maps. Yeah. I love the one that you're mentioning that had kind of some Pillar of Autumn-esque stuff to it. It's interesting. The Digsite article says the Gearbox made like brand new textures that never got used. And
yes,
looking at them, these are very classic Halo textures. So I mean, as artists, I'm sure myself and Josh both can benefit from being able to see those and using as references. It's
Absolutely.
so cool seeing what like they were authoring in the early era of Halo, because as the universe went on, obviously art style changed. That's a hot topic.
Yes.
But this is very rooted in like early Halo, no future influences whatsoever. So it's cool seeing that, seeing new stuff in that style. So
yeah, it takes you back in an archived way, and it's a healthy way to kind of go back and reference to it. So yeah, Underground. The next one is Ruin Pain, which is it's not intricate, but it would be a good larger big team battle map. It has a couple of bunkers. I mean, and the bunkers are definitely inspired by like Saving Private Ryan's spiritual reimagining of the bunkers of D-Day, the German bunkers. So they have that design, and the inspiration is there. And I always thought that was cool. Defensible structures, as these two know, I have a little bit of an obsession with forts, fortifications, and castles. It infects every game we play. But and it's also cool to see the 343 swap imagining with the this level. Was it called Swamp Thing? Yeah, I'm reading it here.
Yep.
Something in the Mist, Swamp Level by Gearbox Software. Gearbox in general, right? And it's easy. I think I have it right next to me. If I don't, I do not. Yeah, like Gearbox. I mean, there was a time where that was actually on PC versions of the game and cartridge. So it took me a second to remember. So I was actually digging through my trove of Halo physical memorabilia, and I was quite surprised with what I found. So all the dots are kind of connecting themselves as we're giving this stuff and it's resurfacing. There's not a lot more that I can say about it as far as like, Blam is concerned and Spasm, but Ancient, Epic, Mysterious, like we said before, it is, and I think it captured that. We also tried as far as modding is concerned, the what is it called? Arcology. It's an earlier revision of Outskirts / Metropolis, or New Mombasa, where New Mombasa was still a towering arcology stretching up in the clouds. That is fucking cool. And Vin, I know that our buddy Ardent was really gushing about that, but from the original trailer, the city actually expanded and had outer levels and expanded further due to extreme overpopulation, I'm guessing, but the design was fucking insane. I didn't think we would actually see that in game.
yeah, no, I know. I think they're working on restoring the full Halo 2 E3 demo as well. I seem to remember that being in the cards. So I hope that, like cutscenes and all, I really hope that's something they eventually get working.
Absolutely.
Play through that demo.
Absolutely. Yeah, the mentioning of like the earlier visions of Ascension, it won't go into too big a detail for it because it can be viewed, and there'll be links in the video description down below. But then also like Colossus revision, a lot of these levels I really loved. As you know, most of the Halo that I played was 2 and 3. It was at least when I started, right, like high school and such and before. But there were a lot of things here in early renditions of maps that I would have welcomed. I understand why they weren't included, because they had a really tough time with not just CE, but Halo 2 in general was like an accidental success. So all this cut content doesn't really surprise me, but yeah, also known as Blockout. The Lockout revision, known as Blockout, because it's very basic, standard, and not a lot of textures. It was very, very cut and dry, and I have it on screen now. Midship revision. Of course, we all like midship. I know I'm a big fan of it. Fighting over the infamous bloodthirsty, overpowered Halo 2 sword. The maps are great, and I still have to get and go through all of them. But I'm really looking forward to it, exploring the maps, enjoying the level ambiance. Every one of these levels has its own soundtrack and ambiance that we've never heard. It's amazing.
Yeah.
What was it?
I was personally really happy when I found out that this update included Anchor Point, which is a Cut Halo 2 map set in like one of the gas giant type locations that you fight the Heretics.
Yes!
That was a map that we've known that it existed for a long time, but we never really got to see it. That was the first one I jumped into when the update dropped. And what I love about it is it plays so unconventionally. Like, you see why it was cut, but it's very like Banshee reliant. Like, you're walking across these massive like connective pieces on this grid, and there's teleporters. It's a strange, like, mechanics-wise BTB map, but I think that aesthetically it's so cool to
Yes.
see something like that. So I would love to play a version of this where the vehicles are swapped out for Heretic vehicles rather than just being straight up like Covenant mansions and stuff.
I agree. Wholeheartedly. When looking at that, there's very much, it's like somewhere in between Waterworld and Mad Max with how all the tech is kind of strapped together. Like these tubings and stuff like that. It looks like, you know, you have more of your facilities that were above the gas giant because it's clear that the assets, like you said, come from that section of Halo 2's campaign. But like, for example, the tubes, the platforms you walk across, it almost looks like that wasn't intentional or planned, or maybe that wasn't their original purpose. It looks like this thing was created by them as a makeshift fortification. And like, so the multiplayer maps definitely tell their own story. They always have.
Oh, yeah.
And I've always appreciated that. I'll run you one better, Vin. Like, that map is amazing. And I think it's more impressive than the one that I really liked. But the map that had me gushing earlier, just when I was playing through them randomly, was what's it called? It's right here. Only officially a human example map for Halo 2 Windows Vista. Duke it out on the streets of Mombasa. Human sample. So you're in this very interesting segment of New Mombasa. It's a very small map. I can't imagine 16 people on this map. But you can hear small arms fire in the distance. The map is interactive. Never even heard of this map. Not once. So maybe I wasn't looking hard enough. But that's the one that I was the most thrilled for. Even though it was so small, you have, you know, an assault carrier above ground. You can still see the space elevator. There are trails of smoke. And you can actually hear, like, the audible sounds of Covenant forces and UNSC forces and small arms fire. It's not a big thing. But I think that's the fact that it was made with the intention of being played out is something impressive to me. The fact that we're getting it all, it's like we're lucky. I will say that.
Going back to Anchor Point, I can't find the tweet, but I think it was Paul Russell who tweeted about it.
Yeah,
and he was like, he was remarking on how cool everything is with Digsite, but then he made a remark about how, like,
Anchor Point's not
Anchor
a fun
Point
map,
isn't a
and that's
fun
why
map,
they
and that's why they cut it.
Yeah, which is fair. I think that there's, like, you know, gameplay reasons. Like, playing it, I understood why they didn't end up doing it. I don't think it would fly as a map now, but
right,
like as a piece of, like, back then when competitive was not a goal really when designing maps, and it was more about like making something that looked and played interestingly. I think it's just perfect. And going back to the human sample map for a second, because I have it pulled up here as well, I would not be shocked if this was like a starting point for ODST. Because I'm looking at it with the space elevator hanging in the skyline, and I'm like, this is just straight up the section of New Mombasa that you're in when you drop in. Like,
dude, yes!
I love that.
Yes, you're a big ODST fan. I know we all like it, but we're all pretty partial of it for the same reason, but I didn't think about that. That is a really good observation. It's fantastic. And honestly, guys, I don't think I'm the only one. I won't pretend that I was, but before I had like reliable internet where I lived, because I lived down in the sticks, I would go into multiplayer maps and just wander around and explore. Earth was a good example of that. The Crash Scarab in the side buildings, like maybe it had gotten into restricted of an area and it collapsed on itself. This map is no different. Just listening to the maps, listening to the ambience and how they're perfectly looped. It is very nostalgic in a good way, though. I don't swim in any bad nostalgia because it's here. You know, it's there for us to experience along with the actual Master Chief Collection. So all the other maps are very interesting, but that is the one that caught my eye the most because obviously Halo plus urban combat doesn't happen a lot. So ODST, Halo 2 are very, and a little bit of 3 are very partial to for that reason.
Oh yeah. And I will definitely say, in terms of moving down the list into weapons, the fact that the MA5B grenade launcher variant has come back in full force makes me so happy. Yes. I love the MA5B. It's my favorite assault rifle, but the grenade launcher version of it just has that little extra, like, dash of spice to it. I love the color scheme. I love the functionality that they have a GL version. I want it to show up in an actual game.
I know.
So cool.
It's wicked, dude. When I was crossing all these stone bridges on the Spasm map, and I was experiencing, I mean, Josh was there listening to me was laughing like a 12-year-old. Like, it was good. It was cool. And I'm like, I can't believe I didn't get to experience these in the games, which that's an inevitability too. There's really not a lot of limits to what modders can do. And I see us covering a lot more of that as things are unveiled, which is what we want to do in our unnamed podcast. But we'll eventually come up with one for it. But as far as the weapons, I mean, I really like the SMG. It reminds me a lot of the British Sten gun. I really like the whole, it has a banana styled magazine. I have it pulled up on screen here. The sound effects, though, so many unique gun sound effects and animations that we didn't get to experience. And I'm like, how much time did all these take? All that work, not given credit, not recognized. That's sad. Like, that makes me feel for those that worked on it. And it probably brings some awareness to people that are working on games now. Yeah, no, very, very interesting. Would have loved to have experienced that in the campaign.
I think the SMG is my favorite human weapon in Digsite as well. It's really cool.
Yeah.
It's fascinating too because it looks so distinctly different from every other Halo gun that I've seen, but manages to fit right at home with the rest of the designs.
It's like it fits in Halo, but it also looks like a gun that you would use in Half-Life.
Yeah, exactly.
It really does.
Major Half-Life vibes. So. But like in universe, it and the Commando feel like weapons that you could see the Insurrection really getting use out of because they feel a lot less high tech than say your MA5B or your sniper or your shotguns. It looks very like guerrilla warfare. You know, like you have tape around it, just kind of that vibe.
Yeah.
I love that. It's cool. So.
No, I agree entirely. Another thing that, you know, again, gonna harken back to the Halo 2 limited edition disc. Because, I mean, I rewatched that countless times. I probably shouldn't be proud of the amount of times that I rewatched that. But that was like in the heyday of almost nothing that I wanted to play. I wanted to play as much as Halo back then. And I'm going to kind of segue into the RTS realm of what Halo was originally going to be. And so we have an image pulled up here on screen, and you can see it in the same article. The Legends of Old and Visitors Bold. And it has all these different variations of vehicles. Some have similarities to what we got in the final product with the FPS series. You can see early renditions of what would eventually become like a Revenant or a Wraith. All these different designs. And we even have one that looks like a modern jet. Another one looks like an Eastern European Hind helicopter. It's crazy, all the designs that they were trying to squeeze into this crazy RTS game. If you guys haven't seen the footage, anybody watching this, for the Halo 2 Limited Edition, there are different people have put it on YouTube. I recommend you check it out because it's really interesting. Really cool. World Inhabitants. Oh, yeah. Ben, going back to you talking about the bestiary of the creatures and wildlife. They have Ringworld Inhabitants, the Volpard, the Keelbug, Rockworm, Quadwing, Thorax, Eyebug. I've seen all these before, only because of the curiosity's sake, but a lot of these designs most people have never witnessed at all.
Yeah.
And these were...
I don't think we ever actually saw the Keelbug, but 343 canonized them again with the Eagle Strike Fracture, because the Eagle Strike Fracture mentions Keelbugs. And I, as a deep lore fan, I was like, yes, finally the Keelbugs are back.
Yeah.
Like, I love that they are bringing back all these old designs. So I really dig, like, the look of these is perfect. I could see these being in a modern Halo game. In higher fidelity, obviously, and fitting right in.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, so Josh pointed out earlier, because I'd actually never seen it, so exciting, seeing something for the first time, right? So the new wheels, the vehicles on the map that I had played earlier, you have the Leech, which is a boarding craft, which is clearly made from the same assets as the Spirit dropship. But it's a more compacted version. These were the boarding craft that were meant to ram into the Pillar of Autumn. We just never really saw them. Driving it is an interesting challenge. It wasn't anticipated to be driven or driven well. I wrecked it. The Spectre, the original Spectre. That was my favorite vehicle for the longest time in Halo 2. So to see its CE era or before equivalent was, I don't know. It gave me that sense of wonder again. It
always surprises me that the Spectre doesn't show up or didn't show up in every game after Halo 2.
Yeah.
Because, I don't know, I always felt like a Covenant equivalent to the Warthog would have been nice. They like the Halo 3 with that. What's the brute?
The Prowler.
The Prowler. The Prowler is horrible.
Yeah, it's a weak vehicle. It doesn't. I think part of the Prowler's big problem is that the front turret on it is so pitiful. Like it's weak. You can't really do anything with it.
It's not even useful in campaign.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, the Prowler is not great.
Sorry, I did not mean to cut you off.
No, you're good, dude. Cut me off all you want. This is our podcast, buddy.
Okay.
You were talking about the stealth tank earlier, which I often forget that it was called that, but the design makes sense. Here they have it listed as the Viper, I believe it is. Yes. So, and there were two equivalents. One, I mean, it obviously feels a lot like a Scorpion, but these things are fast. You could ramp in these things. You could arguably do that with a Scorpion, but not like these things. This is a more conventional style, you know, related to now. It's like, not to reference it, but like Battlefield. The new Battlefield games tanks are closer to this thing than this thing is to a Scorpion in Halo. And they're really weird, but I like them. I like that conventional design. What is the name of the early... It literally has to be the original Wasp. It's black. What's it? The Shadow? Kestrel. Thank you. Ooh, very space age name. That's cool. That's different than the convention we get for UNSC vehicles going forward. It's weird. Oh, the doozy. That's that little bike that it was so slow in the water. Boat physics. That's crazy. Then, of course, the Shadow was originally in CE. I had never actually seen the CE Shadow until today. So that was pretty interesting. And then driving the Pelican and seeing the animations of its very rotary and animated wings and thrusters, that was amazing to actually have driven it. Because how long did we wonder what it would have been like to have driven that in-game model, or to have been at Echo 419 and actually piloting it and being that part of the mission, maybe being in charge of that. So it definitely gives you that feeling. So, yeah. Also, I'm trying to think here. There's also the mission we referenced earlier was it was essentially Arcology, right? It was that mini campaign in New Mombasa, but this was based on the old New Mombasa, where it was a mega monolithic structure. And there's it's basically, there's a lot of NPCs. You do have Marine allies, NPC allies, and there are a few different vehicles you can actually drive those really cool futuristic automobiles that you would see in New Mombasa and more than likely blow up with grenades. That was cool. They all had like a Lamborghini style door hatch design to them, which I have on screen here. But I never drove... What is this? It's called the Uber chassis. I didn't drive the Mongoose, and I never saw the Piglet. That's funny. It's like a tiny warthog. That's beautiful. I've never seen that thing. I missed that in the level. That's crazy.
It's cool seeing the more civilian-looking vehicles.
Yes.
From Halo 2 that didn't really make it in.
Piglet. And then of course to do our last point and maybe close off from the level that we've been talking about and the sandbox in it, the Sharkoi. To actually see a Sharkoi being animated and moving, that was pretty cool. Obviously using some sounds and effects from the My Let Golo or the Hunters. And the first time I shot at it thinking it wouldn't do anything, it turned around and killed me with one hit. That was funny. But we did see them get realized in a novel. And that was pretty cool to see it brought. Like, the Halo novels, in my opinion, are good. I've always liked the books, both old and new. I could listen to them on repeat several times. But there are also other enemies, like the Slugman. I had heard of them. I had never seen them. And so those were interesting. They seemed very... I don't know, it was like a lesser equivalent of a Sangheili or an Elite. And then going back to what you said earlier, Van, with the early Elite models. I don't know, it's a lot to take in. And I think it's good that anybody who's a fan of Halo, whether you're from the Bungie era, 343 era, or you like both, this is definitely worth taking a look at, because you're talking about early versions of everything and getting to use them, getting to experience them. It's really cool. So.
Yeah, the Slugman, I was telling Vin yesterday that it upsets me that up until Halo Wars 2, both Bungie and 343 basically didn't do anything with the hunters at all.
Yeah.
I guess the closest to that is the Let Golo worms controlling the Scarab.
Yeah.
But I feel like the hunters, they provided a lot of cool opportunities to do some different units.
Yeah.
And they just didn't do anything until the Colony update in Halo Wars 2, which had some really cool ideas with the worms.
That's
Yeah.
a really good point to bring up, Josh. What were you saying, Ben?
Definitely could have seen more of that too with Infinite and the Banished, because like the concept of Let Go as living barricades was fascinating. I would have loved to have seen that in game.
I know, yeah.
That's why the Slugman is so cool though, because it's a smaller Let Go based unit. Like those are supposed to be Let Go worms, Slugman, which I think is just so fucking cool. So I love the Slugman design. I think they fill a unique niche. Halo 1 didn't really have like a sniper unit, so
right.
That works pretty well in my opinion.
Yeah.
The Shark Boy too, Euclid, I think the book is Envoy, right? That they're kind of brought back.
Yes.
Gray team, right? Yeah.
Yep.
And I believe, like the Shark Boy, correct me if I'm wrong, Josh, weren't we reading a little while back that they're in the Halo 2 manual as well? Not as an enemy type list, but there's like, there's some correspondence between a Jiro Hanai and a Sangheili, and they're talking about the Shark Boy. So Bungie had intended for these guys to be around even as far back as Halo 2, which I think is just, again, so cool. And I'm really glad to see these back in the main game.
Maybe I'll find that while we're on here messing about. I mean, I don't want to cut anything out that's also cool, but I mean, anybody that's watching this should definitely check it out for themselves, and they'll enjoy it more than if they heard it from us, I would argue. I guess we could kind of move on from Digsite. That kind of covers most of what it entails, but do correct me if I'm wrong. I'm just trying to keep our time kind of managed. All in all, with Digsite, what you have is an unveiling and a reacquaintance to those of us who have wondered more about this old content. It's just bringing stuff that didn't make the cut in general. And it's really interesting.
Because I'm sure there's some examples of some other studios that have done similar things.
Yeah.
Studios don't do this.
No, they
don't.
don't.
They don't release these things.
They really don't. That's definitely worth mentioning. There is somewhere in this manual that mentions the Shark Boy, I think. I want to say that, and of course that's another thing too, is the different manuals. Like this is the Halo 2 Collector's Edition, which came with a Covenant guide. With, if I'm not mistaken, Thel Vadam or Thel Vadami at the time in his Supreme Commander Golden Army. So you know, there's a lot that goes with it, and that just pairs up with the cut content. I think that they reinforce each other. I'll try to find that for a future video and mention it, but yeah, that's I think we can move right along. What do you think?
That's the book that refers to them directly as Sangheili and Ungoy and Jiro Hanai, right?
That is that book. As a matter of fact, I am happy, very happy, as a major Covenant fan and a just all-around lover of just aliens and games in general. I really appreciate the fact that they only mention the species names. So you have Ungoy, Igyar, Let Golo, Sangheili, Jiro Hanai, Yanmei, and the Prophets, but that's not their name. And I thought that was funny that they're called the Prophets. That's not their species name. And I always used to make jokes about that, but yeah. Sanshayu.
It's in universe though, so I wonder if there's an element of reverence where a member of the Covenant whose fealty swears fealty to them would never call them by their species name.
Well, they are religious hegemony, right?
Yeah.
So because they're like a fanatical religious hegemony, I know it's going to cut it out because it's not my melon. But yeah, right here, by Prophets, not Sanshayu. So yeah, I just love the species names, don't you?
I love saying Sangheili and Ungoy and Kikyar and Sanshayu and Let Go. By now, anyone that's annoyed about that has probably left or had a brain aneurysm, so I figured the word
Why? It expands on the lore. It's canon. There is no. It's like what we talked about before. It's like it's not Sangheili. Like they're elites. So what is their world? Their home world called Elitios. Like, it doesn't make any fucking sense. Now
It doesn't.
I'll keep driving it. So this second article that you had shared with us, does this one more so just cover the Halo MCC update for July? I'm assuming.
Yeah, it does.
Okay.
I posted it because I thought it might have had some new stuff about Digsite in it.
No
but
worries.
Most of the Digsite stuff.
The notable stuff in that is the firefight got bumped up for both ODST and Reach to 8 players, which is really cool.
Are you
that's-
serious?
So so we could play firefight with the whole group now, no having to kick anybody.
Yeah.
That's fucking metal, dude. That's amazing.
Make it sound like we would kick someone as opposed to just playing a different.
We're just
mode.
playing
Like,
something else.
we were just
Right.
playing-
The point is that now we don't have to choose PvP. We can actually play
Yeah.
PvE together.
Which is really, really cool. They added theater to Halo 4, which is neat for people that are interested in trying to take screenshots. I'm glad it's been a long time coming. They enabled the setting for firefight to restore PvP to it because the Halo Reach beta had a PvP firefight mode that was generator defense related. Now you can recreate it, which I think leads
Wow.
to PvPvE modes. In the future.
To add to what you guys are saying, I mean, I do know that with the update, that through mods you can unlock those 3 Halo Online maps, Lockout, Reactor, and Skybridge. So that's worth mentioning, I would argue. And of course, Halo 2's Griffball. So I know that is something that people love. They want in the more modern limelight of Halo, such as with Infinite. Not to bash on it, but just to kind of bring it up, it's nice to have that supplement there in regards to MCC, which arguably has a large amount of the Halo population being active on it. So as far as the community is concerned. So that was worth mentioning. Do you guys mind spearheading kind of our start into Crashsite? Because I have talked too much.
Do not mind.
Okay, I appreciate it. So I got a little excited because I just played through that level and experienced all the cut CE content. I don't know, man. It made me feel like I was 20 years younger again. It was crazy. Nuts.
Let me,
No, you're good.
I think to lead into before Josh does anything, I loved the crash site when it opens up has all this like text string coming across your screen. It feels very classic Halo, where like when your HUD is getting updated with your mission objectives and stuff, and there's just literally scrolling text all across your HUD. I'm like, that's cool. It makes it feel like a real, genuine heads-up display, like you're in the game, and I love that.
I've got it on screen now while we're talking, just for shits and giggles, since you guys will kind of be spearheading the crash site equivalent of this podcast. I was going to say, so to specify, Digsite is a campaign experience, if I'm not mistaken.
Crashsite is, yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I keep getting them mixed up. That's my bad. But yeah, so Crashsite is a campaign experience, and that is with, and I'm mostly saying it for people watching that might be, well, slightly more ignorant of it than myself. That's the beauty of it, is if you're just discovering it's exciting. So this isn't something you set up in custom multiplayer, but rather in campaign
Go to
itself.
the campaign.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
So this map was done, or this campaign mission was made by members of the Digsite group that were working with 343.
Yes.
It's basically a full campaign. I haven't actually had the opportunity to play through it yet, but I've seen posts from people on Twitter, and a lot of big CE fans say that it's probably one of the best Halo experiences that you're going to get right now.
Yeah.
It's pure Halo. And I've seen some remarks about how it's very much like an expanded Silent Cartographer, which is a lot of people's favorite mission in CE.
Dude,
So,
Halo D-Day, the Normandy of Halo.
Yeah.
Even if it was small, it felt so much bigger then, and even it feels nice now. That's where my obsession with keeping NPCs alive started. How many dudes? Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, dude, don't interrupt my ass. That's what this is for. Good.
Okay, well, I was just going to say, Vin and I tried to play it in co-op, but it seems that CE has some weird bug where some modded campaign missions just glitch out for a player and then they get kicked. So that's the main reason I haven't been able to play it yet, because I haven't had a chance to actually sit down on my computer.
Yeah.
So
you're good. I mean, I'm actually playing the opening sequence of it. I'm not going to play through much of it for obvious reasons. I want to experience it on the channel.
Mayday! Mayday! We've been shot down and are under fire!
My God, this is... and you start off with the SMG we were just talking about.
I don't want to hear everybody.
it has a completely custom soundtrack as well, which is pretty cool.
Distress code is great.
Genuinely like a real labor of love on behalf of the Digsite team, and I love that. That's the whole encompassing thing about all of this. Is it's so cool that fans have come together. And you're right, Josh. I don't think that there is another thing like this out there. I've never seen a company be like, yeah, we're going to let you dig around all the cut stuff and let you bring it back. So for people who just use it. Yeah. I've never seen anything like that. That's one thing I've always applauded 3434 is their level of community goodwill when it comes to stuff like this is unparalleled. You can fault them for whatever else you want to.
Right.
And there are some valid criticisms that have been leveled at the company as a whole. But the fact that they have been willing to do this as a community endeavor is just so cool.
I'm already impressed with what I'm seeing. Of course, I have Vin's beloved grenade launcher equivalent to the assault rifle, and you know I'm going to quit it in a second because I really don't want to ruin anything for myself. But the fact that it started you off downhill from a smog trail from a like that is amazing. I know the name is quite literal with what you're starting with, but we are talking a new Combat Evolved campaign with cut content included. That is a big fucking deal. I don't even care about new titles on games anymore because of this. Like, you can move on to other games, but this brings me back to the limelight of Halo. It's why I started my channel. Halo is actually a big reason why we met. I mean, all of us. So one could be argued, but it so far it's pretty remarkable. The voices, the game. I mean,
I loved all the cut dialogue that they repurposed. It's really fun. So I'm looking forward to, and I hope that some really talented modders do this. Because I don't want like a mod that just replaces or adds weapons or vehicles into the CE campaign. I want some people to do like a full-blown overhaul of CE with 1999 content, and use it in ways that feel clever and actually integrate it. So I'm hoping that we get to see some stuff like that in the future, because I think that that's what's so great is like whatever you feel about where Halo is right now. I think that with MCC, the modding community it's kind of on them now, and I think that they're going to keep Halo alive in many regards. We have some really big mods. Like Halo Reborn, which I'm helping with a little bit.
Yeah.
But, their mod is gonna probably blow people's socks off, I think. So I know some stuff about it that people don't know. So it's gonna be pretty cool. And I'm hoping that there's some other people that can produce similar quality stuff. Because I think we need it.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I mean, I think that this is going to be really rejuvenating, but in a rebellious kind of way. Kind of like, this isn't to say one thing bad about one person or the other, but I think it's going to feel really good that the community is kind of taking some matters into their own hands, specifically the gifted people, some of which that you work with, like you said, which I like that little flex because it is earned. It's pretty cool. I mean, you definitely deserve it, and that's the beauty of, like, I may not know things like you do, but the anticipation is there, and I don't know how to handle it, man. I'm feeling giddy, like, because nobody really was looking forward to Combat Evolved. I mean, not en masse, but the fact that I can look forward to something that's related to it, like I am here right now. I'm just running around along the initial starting point of Crashsite, and I don't know, man. I would honestly be okay. I would actually pay for new campaigns created with the CE engine. And I don't know if that's stupid to say.
For real, actually. Yeah.
I would. Like, it would be so cool. It would be so amazing. Like,
If the right people worked on it and they really polished it,
yeah.
I don't care what the graphics look like. CE, I still think 22 years later, it looks phenomenal. Great for its art style.
Beautiful,
so,
yeah.
I think it looks better than Halo 2 in most cases.
I am firmly in the camp that because they did a demake, is what it's called, of Powerhouse for Halo Online, which ended up in Halo 3, where they just took Powerhouse from Reach and just demade it, I guess. I saw people talking about it, and I would love demakes for Halo CE. Like, give me some Reach, Halo 3, Halo 4 era maps in Halo Combat Evolved's art style. I would love to see that. Yeah. I think there's a lot of potential for some interesting additions, and because of CE's simplistic art style, I have to reckon it'd be a lot easier to make something like that than it would be to make a brand new map for, say, Halo 4.
Right.
You know?
Oh, yeah.
So.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. Like, if they were to give us, you could even, what you could do, you could do what a lot of people did with, like, the more mobile-styled Halo games, right? There were 2 of them, if I'm not mistaken. I know I played them on the channel. It's been years now. But they actually covered the actual forward operating base from the Combat Evolved era that the UNSC remnants that escaped from the Pillar of Autumn ran to. That was covered in a game, but not in a first-person shooter. So if you just covered that, you could be an ODST, or you could be a stylized Marine, or you could be... They could even have you... Here's a crazy thought, if you guys remember from the novels, and I'm sure you do. That poor commanding officer that Master Chief found on the other side of the ring, surrounded by, like, fucked up Flood. And you could be him. They can make the campaign about him. And I know that sounds dumb to some, but I think that's amazing because you have this creative freedom that would be handled by modders, which tend to be some of the most... A lot of them tend to be very respectful of the lore. So it would be like, no, it's not canon, but it would feel like a beautiful nod to the viewpoint that was not Master Chief's. Because there's a lot of great... Every time I reread the novel, I remember something that I clearly forgot, and it feels like I'm learning it all over again. I'm pumped to play Digsite. That's going to be a series on the channel. I knew about it just from what you told me, but just that opening segment kind of gives me chills because the audio is there. You linked up with your squad. Your readout showed that you linked up to the squad, and then your objectives were there. It was fucking cool.
You do need to do a series for it, I think. I think that would be really cool. So,
I will.
People are looking for, like... I mean, we've seen other channels on YouTube posting mod content. People are looking for that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It'd be a good way to, like, reinforce Halo on the channel as well, but... As far as Digsite is concerned, that is something I think we need more of, and I think that it would not only be good for Halo, but it would also be a great blueprint for those if they intend to create something new. And on a AAA scale, it might be something for them to pay attention. And I say that in a good way, that I want to see a series succeed, and I think that this is a clear sign that you have a community that's hungry. I mean, the Halo community is ravenous. They always want more, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's big shoes to fill, and the fact that modders are doing this, like that's it's just exciting. So I'm gonna stop before I ramble further. I don't know. I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to playing through all of Crashsite, and I will in a series. But you know,
I want to play co-op with you when they fix the bug.
Oh, absolutely. We'll do a stream. We'll do a co-op campaign stream or something. That'd be fun.
Yeah.
Oh, can't do that without the CE buff in the group. So didn't lock 4-player. That'd be the only way it got sweeter.
I know, that would be nice. I'd like to see 4-player co-op CE.
So
that would be so cool.
I know that our time frame is over quite a bit, but I also see the stuff that you have mentioned in our chat, Ben, as far as there are different things from vehicle variants to, I know that there are modders restoring the Halo 3 announcement trailer. That's very interesting. I remember seeing, just quick story, I actually heard about Halo 3's announcement, not through the internet, not through a phone. I had a flip phone at the time, and it sucked. Dating myself. I remember the Halo 3 announcement trailer. The first time I saw it was on a channel called Cinematech back when G4 TV was about video games. That was a fucking long time ago. And the trailer was beautiful. I was like, oh, holy shit. I am so pumped for this. I mean, it was really incredible. So that to be restored is amazing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of mention of like Halo 2 anti-air wraiths, something called the Sun Devil tank. That's insane. That looks like a flat gun, but on a scorpion body, like anti-air. I don't know, man. What do you guys have to say? I've talked enough. I'm super excited
for the Halo Wars stuff they're doing because they are going to be releasing assets from Blur Studio.
Ooh, yes. Good point.
So that's cool. Just like as a artist and compositor, and that to me is probably my most anticipated thing that they're doing. That's not like related to CE directly.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's going to be really neat to see those assets.
Well,
yeah, I really am the most interested to see. Like, the pre-release stuff is awesome, but I'm so fascinated to see what they do with Reach 4 and Wars. Like Reach, especially, there was so much content left on the cutting room floor for that game. It's really cool seeing they like restoring the Kodiak from Reach, and it looks good. It's a mid-poly model, but it looks really solid.
The community could definitely take that.
Wow, dude.
So
I'm seeing it now, Ben. It looks really impressive. I think you shared a screenshot, a couple of them. One that's actually in-game with on the Spire map, I believe it is. And then another one, it's like more of a blueprint. Something you'd probably find in a Halo, like vehicles or weapons section in a book. So, yeah, that's impressive looking.
And Halo 4 had a ton of classic content that ended up getting cut. I mean, the Revenant for Halo 4, I wish to this day that they would just be like, we're adding it, we'll throw it on some maps. Because it was done. I think the only thing that was missing was certain sounds and effects and stuff like that, but the model itself was finished. And Halo 4 also is going to have a Falcon. And I would love to see that someday, too.
Yeah.
So,
it's pretty remarkable. I'm more than excited for what comes next. I think that this is a drive from people who are curious enough to mess with files and were curious enough to see what lied under the surface, what was untouched, but what could be open or maybe complete in a sense. And that's because, I mean, the community wants more. They're going to get it somehow, and this is how they're getting it. It's because of the wonderful modders and the people that work with them that we get to experience this. And they work a lot. They work as if it's a full-time job, and they do it for free because they love it, and that's something to be grateful for, I think. Speaking from someone like me who has no capability to do it. So, yeah, it's exciting. I'm looking forward to it. I really don't have anything else to say in regards to that other than I'm excited for what comes next. And if you guys are, you should let us know in the comments down below, obviously, what you're looking forward to. Did you guys even know about this? Because most of this I didn't until these gentlemen filled me in. I have the advantage of having people that know, and they know when it's relevant. So I'm looking forward to it. Let's start a conversation in the comment section down below. And by all means, have suggestions for the podcast name. It's better than maybe what I said earlier, which you will not hear. So,
and let us know in the comments. You know, is it Sangheili or is it Elite? Tell us if tell us if you're really, really upset that we call him Sangheili. Please let us know. Write multiple comments.
Drop an angry face emoji, and then we know you got to this point in the podcast.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
I will say as well, just before we end our conversation about Digsite, it's so cool seeing Halo fans paying for billboards in Times Square to bring Halo mods to Xbox. We love him to be able to experience some of this content too, though he's getting his gaming laptop. But, you know, we've all been there before. I was not in the PC realm for a long time. I think that people on Xbox definitely deserve to experience some of this content. And it's really cool to see people throwing up billboards of like Halo mods in the middle of Times Square. I think that's awesome.
Yeah.
So I hope that we eventually a conversation gets started that allows some of that content to come to Xbox.
Yeah, I know you shared it. It was like not even, what, 30 seconds? I'm going to go ahead and share that in the stream real quick, just because I think it's relevant.
Yeah, they cycle them, right?
Yep.
So it pops up for 30 seconds and then it comes back later.
Yeah, and now they're doing... So originally it was just hashtag bring Halo mods to Xbox, and now they're actually doing mod showcases on Times Square's billboards, which is just wild to me. Like, showing people's custom maps and things that they've done.
It's really crazy. I think that, I didn't think I'd see anything like that. You wouldn't even fathom. It's like, unless it was paid for by a company, it would never show up there in Times Square. Like, that, I actually, for a second, I'm like, how? But I think that's what it is we've never seen something like that before. That kind of overbearing and overwhelming amount of support. Like, so I think this video here that I'm watching that you shared, they were actually thinking, who was it? Vengeful Vadam.
Yep.
And so Vengeful Vadam is the one that said it. They said, cheers, Vadam. I'm playing it now. This is in Times Square.
Yeah.
Wow. Are you serious? That's insane to me.
Imagine being a Halo fan, not being aware,
Because
hopefully you're not on Twitter as a Halo fan, and seeing that as you're walking out and about.
Dude.
It would throw me for a loop, for sure. I think I would be very, very confused.
That's amazing. That's just amazing. Okay, I got it pulled up now. I'm not struggling with it anymore. No, that's crazy to me. Bring Halo mods to Xbox. It's such a weird time to be a Halo fan. I didn't think... You're so used to stuff being brought to you officially by the company or by whatever developer is in charge of its creation. This is like people. This is just fans. That's nuts to me. Wow. 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 There's no way that's doctored up. That is legitimate. That's crazy.
I think there's been some people that have taken photos of the billboard.
Yeah. It's real. I mean, they've already confirmed that it's legitimate. It's just when I first saw it, you know, that was my first thought process. I was like, "There's no way. It's only
$40 to get your stuff up there. So if y'all ever want to pull together some money to advertise the Untitled podcast, you know, on Times Square's billboard, I think that would be. We just do Euclid's face right there.
You don't do that. I get funny looks wherever I go anyways, enough as it is. Literally a stranger the other day at the store had this full conversation about his manager and how mean he was, and I've never met the guy. I don't know why he was talking to me. I don't know why it happened. If you multiply that times 100, exactly. Oh, man. Dear God. Of course you would. Of course you would. But no, I hope we continue to get this, obviously, and I hope it continues to be received, like, well, by people. I think people want this, but I don't think people knew that they wanted this. They didn't know what they wanted. Most people were kind of looking at other series until something new arrived for Halo, and this is like it. This is the answer. Mods are kind of the future of Halo right now. They're the present of Halo, really. So I don't know. In a closing, that was our thoughts on Crashsite, Digsite, but there is one more mention that we needed to bring up just briefly, and that was something that actually aged with the Halo games, not only with its production and comedic value, but that is the well-known acclaimed series, Once Upon a Time, of course, known as Red vs. Blue. And if you've never heard about it, you've definitely at least seen art or a clip or something. I will really quickly harken back to, again, the Halo 2 limited edition disc, and that's actually how I heard about Red vs. Blue. There was a short snippet of Bernie Burns and Juff, and they played Church and Griff, and they were having a slight argument on Halo Combat Evolves Blood Gulch. And it was, it immediately got me started. Yeah, wait, that's illegal. You know, it's like that and seeing it grow, but ultimately seeing it change. And like you said earlier, Van, season 13, I believe it was, Red vs. Blue is over. And I think you should take the reins on that because you specifically brought it up.
take the reins on the topic of red versus blue. I'm sorry, like part of me I spaced out at the end there.
Well, so
that's what it is.
I guess there's not a lot to say, but it kind of goes in tandem with the fact that people want stuff, but they're not exactly getting it. And that's not me knocking on anybody, but we don't do forced positivity here. We just say what we believe is real, and we enforce it, and then we want to see Halo succeed, but you don't do that by trying to convince people that everything's okay when the house is on fire. My point I was making, though, is that Red vs. Blue started not long after Combat Evolved, not really, and it aged with it, and it eventually, over time, transformed from they were back in the days of machinima, and if you've never heard of machinima or never experienced it, you just can't now.
You're too young to be watching this video.
Right.
You know?
Right. And we've got plenty of age difference in this chat, so we're kept both relevant, but we're also kept humble from each other. And I think the biggest thing with Red vs. Blue is there's certainly a nostalgia from its beginning, from Combat Evolved to Halo 2 to Halo 3, and it was just a comedy. It was a machinima comedy using the games in relation to the games. It wasn't directly related nor canonical, obviously, but it did reference them, and it grew with the games as new titles released. And obviously it kind of turned into a more, I mean, I think they actually used some like legitimate technology to capture like character movements and fighting, and it turned into an action series. And I don't really know why. I kind of trailed off like most people and didn't really experience the end of it. I'll try. I mean, I have the set of the first few seasons, but it kind of trailed off and it changed, and I think its identity was kind of changed over that time too. And so you see the end of Red vs. Blue. Well, I'll give Vin credit here because he more or less said it, and if I downplay it or make it sound worse than it was, please correct me. It kind of felt like, per our discussion, that with the end of Red vs. Blue, it kind of felt like, in a sense, the end of like this long timeline of Halo, because Red vs. Blue was very ingrained with the games when they released and how the series either evolved or changed or diminished, whichever way you want to look at it.
It is something that marks at least a change in the way things have operated. I mean, every Halo game, I remember when I started being a Halo fan, watching the Red vs. Blue PSAs that they would do in attachment to Halo. Like, I distinctly remember the one they did for Halo 4 about voting, and that being one of the first looks we got at certain Halo 4 assets. Red vs. Blue and Halo have always kind of been interlinked for me. So hearing that they're doing, like, this is the final season, I'm really like, oh wow, things have really changed. And, we're kind of coming to the end of this long journey with Halo.
Yeah.
But no, when you talk about Red vs. Blue, I mean, that made Rooster Teeth what it was. Yeah. And like, I feel like Monty Bloom's action that he did in mid kind of season Red vs. Blue really changed the game and probably influenced a lot of like Halo animation in general. Yeah. His stuff that he did, Halo Void, and his Red vs. Blue fight scenes are incredible.
Yeah.
So for me, it's sad, it's bittersweet that it's coming to an end. I think it's necessary. I applaud the gumption of Bernie Burns coming back to write and decanonizing everything up till season 13 that they did. Like everything post season 13 is just a simulation. I applaud that. That kind of hard reboot is something I haven't seen other companies do before. So I was like, wow, that's...
Right. There's a lot of gravity behind that.
Yeah.
Especially like yourself then. I mean, we've all were kind of there since the beginning. Or we were just catching up. But you were there for like at least 9 out of 10 of the of the duration of its timeline. So Red vs. Blue ending, it's definitely worth a mention. So yeah, Red vs. Blue is basically over, folks. And that's like the end of an era with Halo as well. So the future seems to be in a lot of very talented and willing people, willing to give their time. And but if that's the case, I'm going to go out on a limb in a closing and say that if that's the case, then Halo's in good hands.
Definitely.
Well, guys, I appreciate everybody joining us. Vin and Josh, like always, I appreciate you guys making time just to be with me, just to talk about this stuff, and ultimately for saving my interest in Halo years ago. So I appreciate it. And, these guys have done a lot for me. So you guys can expect a lot more videos, content of varying types from the three of us, and maybe guest appearances from other friends in the next video. So next time, I am Euclid. This is Sir Vin and Sir Josh, and we will catch you all in the next video.